Greetings everyone, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, here to bring you another episode review from Season 5 of The Loud House. Today's episode is titled Resident Upheaval. First we'll discuss the plot, and then my thoughts and critiques with my final score. So, let's get right into it. The episode begins at Sunset Canyon with Myrtle getting a tour of the building in the hopes of moving into one of the vacant rooms. Seymour says there's another applicant applying for the same room, and it turns out Bernie is giving a tour to said applicant, Clyde's Nana Gayle. Lincoln and Clyde try sucking up to the Sunset Canyon board members, Seymour and Bernie, in the hopes of swaying them into choosing their grandmother. The two friends spot each other at the opera, and their respective plans are revealed. Since Seymour was going to choose Myrtle, and Bernie was going to choose Gayle, they turn the final decision over to the head of the board, Scoots. She says their grandmothers will have to battle each other for the room, but both Gayle and Myrtle decline to do such a thing. However, Lincoln and Clyde won't give up, and they decide to dress up as their grandmothers and battle themselves. They compete in a best 3 out of 5 challenge, with Lincoln and Clyde winning 2 challenges each. During their final challenge, a pudding wrestling match, the boys fall out of their disguises in front of Scoots, even though she knew they weren't the real Gayle and Myrtle the entire time and only made them compete for the fun of it. Because they pretty much cheated, neither of their grandmothers get the room. They ask for another chance, but they're told to come back when they decide which one gets the room. Then Scoots accidentally knocks down a wall in her room, and it's revealed she had been living in a 2-bedroom suite the entire time. Having been busted, she moves out and into the vacant single room, while Myrtle and Gayle move into their new suite together. Well, that concludes the plot of the episode, so now we come to my thoughts and critiques. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't looking forward to this episode. A few questions regarding certain characters were finally answered, and the storyline itself was actually not half bad. But first, let's talk about those certain characters. In this episode, Pop-Pop is voiced by Christopher Swindle, filling in for the original actor Fred Willard, who sadly passed away back in May 2020. Even though Swindle confirmed it was just a one-time only deal, his voice for Albert really doesn't sound too far off from that of Willard's. He could have been the permanent replacement, but we'll see who officially gets the gig later on. Also, at long last, we finally see what Clyde's Nana Gayle looks like after 4 seasons of talking about her. She was more or less what I had come to expect. Sweet, caring, friendly, and indeed owns a dog named Bingo we first heard about in the episode Teachers Union. As for the episode itself, it was the rarely seen Lincoln versus Clyde fight where they compete against each other in order to gain something of value. It's sort of like the episode Intern for the Worse, but actually this one is much better than the aforementioned episode from Season 2. Rather than sucking up to someone like Flip to get some kind of managerial role, even though they were just being used for free labor in exchange for meaningless job titles, they were competing to get their grandmothers the spare room at Sunset Canyon by sucking up to the senior center's board members and later battling it out themselves. It shows how much they really care for their grandmothers, and they will do what it takes to help them out. Now, as far as the 3 seniors go, I'm not sure why these particular residents get to make decisions on who gets to move in, but that's hardly a point worth talking about in the grand scheme of things. I liked how Seymour and Bernie weren't taking advantage of either of their applicants' grandkids just to see how far the pandering and pampering would go, so you have to at least respect them for being straight with Lincoln and Clyde. Scoots, on the other hand, was totally willing to take advantage of the situation. The fact she knew the boys were not really their grandmothers does not surprise me in the slightest. It shouldn't surprise anyone, really. She is the kind of person who would screw with others just for kicks. Ask Flip. I thought the challenges she put them through were pretty funny, and it makes you wonder how far the real Gayle and Myrtle would go if they took the battle. Personally, I wouldn't mess with anyone who knows how to kickbox for the same reason why I wouldn't mess with anyone who has a background in professional wrestling. Also, major props to the Ultimate Warrior tattoo and Muppets reference in this episode. Can't go wrong with a little pop culture, right? We see Scoot still has her boyfriend Tyler after we first saw them hook up back in the episode The Boss Maybe. However, there was one thing about Scoots we didn't see at first, and that was her hidden double suite. This is my only real nitpick. It seemed a little too convenient that no one, not even Bernie and Seymour, realized Scoots had a room much bigger than anyone else at the senior center. Again, I'm not sure when these 3 residents got on the board, but since they were, how did they not know what kind of room Scoots had the whole time? Did she manage to remodel her room to make it bigger, presumably before Seymour and/or Bernie moved into Sunset Canyon, and kept it a secret? It's never explained why Scoots just happened to have a large room, other than her saying she needed it for her scooter and Tyler's motorcycle. Kind of a weak explanation, but in the end, she still moved out to make room for Lincoln and Clyde's grandmothers. There is a soft side to her after all, even though that mushy stuff gives her hives. So, yeah. Overall, this episode wasn't as bad as I thought. It wasn't amazing and certainly not my favorite Clink and McCloud episode, but to see them go as far as they did just to get their grandmothers a room at the senior center was very much appreciated. It was great finally seeing Nana Gayle after all this time and hearing what Albert's new temporary voice was going to sound like. This opens the door to new adventures at Sunset Canyon, and actually, I wouldn't mind if they tried dedicating an episode to just that location. I know I have a thing for episodes focusing solely on adults, but I'd be willing to give it a shot. In short, the story was decent, the characters were used well, a bit too convenient towards the end, but nothing overly critical. With that said, I give Resident Upheaval an 8.4 out of 10. Well, folks, that concludes my review of Resident Upheaval. Maybe now Nana Gayle can make a few more appearances in the series and perhaps share an episode with Clyde. It would be an interesting idea, but we'll see what happens. So what did you guys think of it? Love it? Hate it? Something you would add? Change? Keep it as it is? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to this channel for the latest Loud House content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, signing off. Peace out, home slices.